KSR's Jack Pilgrim here alongside Zach Gagan, as always, following Kentucky's 96-88 victory in overtime here at Rupp Arena. Zach, my heart rate is still not okay. I think I need to go to the doctor. What a finish, what a game where Kentucky had every opportunity to fall. They could have folded about 38 different times, and it felt like Tre Mitchell just continued to be that guy to show himself time and time again. He hits the big three at the end of the first half to take the lead, converts on the putback dunk to close out regulation to keep it in overtime, and then to start overtime, he hits back-to-back threes and ultimately seals the game for the Cats. One of many takeaways, Tre being awesome. 3 different players scoring 20 points or more for the Cats. Where to even begin? It was just such an unbelievable ride that very fortunately finished in Kentucky's favor.
Well, if the camera is shaking when you're watching this, that's probably because Mr. Stephen Peak is still recovering from the nerves that he was suffering throughout this entire game. But yes, Kentucky made it about as nerve-wracking as they possibly could. St. Joe's got incredibly hot from 3 down the end there. We saw a good game from DJ Wagner. I think that's probably our main story of tonight that we'll get into. Yeah, Tre Mitchell, though, canned the 2 biggest shots of the entire game. The first 2 threes of overtime back-to-back gave Kentucky, I think, ended up being a 4-point lead with about 3 minutes left, and Kentucky even still missed a couple of free throws down the stretch, and it was still enough to come out with the win. So very gritty win, if you want to say it like that. There's a lot of buzzwords we could use, but yeah, it was very relieving to get this type of win. You definitely don't want to lose a game like this, especially against the St. Joseph's teams that was obviously pretty good out there, but obviously lost to Texas A&M Commerce, shot for 6 for 30. We knew they were going to come in and shoot a bunch of threes. They did. They made 15 of them, I think.
Yep.
Yes, 15 of 37 for 40.5%. At least half of those, it felt like, came in the final 7 or 8 minutes. So for Kentucky to kind of be able to fend that off at the end there, I thought was really impressive. There was some defensive lapses really in that maybe the last 10 minutes of that second half that are probably the biggest downsides of this game that I'm sure will get adjusted as time goes on. But yeah, overall, this is just a game that you had to win. St. Joe's playing with house money. UK was not. They had to get this dub, and they did. So
you talked about DJ Wagner. He finally has his moment of, okay, this is why you signed me. You signed me so I can dribble the air out of the ball for 25 seconds and then go finish a bucket at the rim to essentially, I know Tre Mitchell's back-to-back threes were kind of the sealer, but DJ's, dribbling it out and then finishing at the bucket, that was kind of his, that's what you are. That's what you bring to the table, that competitive fire.
That dog.
He always had that. That was the one thing that we've been kind of missing to start the season was, why is he playing so passive? Why is he not playing with confidence and attacking with confidence the way that he did in high school? And where we finally got to see that mini breakthrough. Took some bad shots, did not like some of that one game winner attempt in particular was not very pretty, but you see the vision there. We couldn't necessarily see the vision the first couple games. You're finally starting to piece that together. And Justin Edwards on the flip side was also one of those guys that you were going, Is he going to make it? What is the vision there with him? You kind of got to see that together. He pieced himself together a very interesting game where he was at least productive and a positive production as well. You needed bounce back games from those two, and you got it.
Yeah, it was definitely more of spurts from Justin Edwards, it felt like, not necessarily a whole game from him, but we definitely saw the moments. He hit 2 threes, that was big. I thought it was interesting that Cal mentioned he was talking about Justin, kind of mentioned Justin's name, and then went on talking about lack of preparation, and even in his radio session over there, he's talking about you can't come into the stadium with sleep in your eyes, a couple hours before tip-off. So I found that was interesting. Maybe Justin just kind of hasn't been taking things as seriously as maybe he should have. It's purely speculation there. Obviously, things changed tonight. He came in. He was just more aggressive. He got to his spots to get those 2 threes. Those were nice to see. He had a nice block as well. DJ, like you were saying, much more aggressive from him. That was the best part. Even though some of those shots didn't fall, he even had one, the layup there that would have given Kentucky the 1-point lead. He missed it. Tre Mitchell comes in, perfect cleanup because DJ drew 2 guys to him that wanted to go block that shot because they knew that he was going to the rim. So even, his bad luck in that sense still ends up being good for Kentucky because he was aggressive. He remained that way. Reed Sheppard, on the other hand, kind of had a not-so-great game, especially on defense. Him and Reeves, honestly, kind of got pulled at times in the second half because they were the reason that St. Joe's was getting a lot of open threes. Reed still did a lot of really good things. Reeves did as well. I think he's still, at 20 points or something like that. And then Reed was pretty much helping out every other way. I think he had 4 steals, a bunch of assists. But just
5 steals.
5 steals.
You shortchanged him.
Shortchanged him. I think Tre Mitchell had 4 blocks. Check me there.
4 blocks.
4 blocks. See, look at that. I'm stat watching here. But yeah, no points for Reed. I think he only had the 1 shot as well. But when he's doing all the other things out there, and Cal even put him back in the last 2 minutes because he could trust his on-ball defense, and in particular his team defense, which is something that you and I have kind of preached about with Reed before he even got here, was that he's a very good team defender. You saw some of those things tonight. And even when a guy like Reed, and Cal was very adamant, he had the best plus-minus as the game was over. I don't know how much stock you should put into those type of numbers, but he was a plus 16, only guy in double digits on the plus-minus at the end there, so that probably tells you something. Even without being able to score the ball, he was still impactful. So the guards overall, we still haven't talked about Rob. And
awesome again.
Rob had a pretty decent game himself, so you can dive into that if you want while I...
Yeah, Rob, 13 points, 5 of 10, 2 of 3 from 3, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, just one turnover. Cal talked after the game basically saying we're still trying to fine-tune when to let Rob go be Rob. And that's something that I think he's going to be dealing with all season long, where there's just so much oomph with what Rob brings to the table, and the risk reward there, the reward is so far outweighing the risk. And again, he had his moments. That play in the corner, Cal mentioned like 3 times, that almost cost Kentucky the game. He had to get a timeout, and by the grace of goodness got that and turned it into a bucket. Like, there were some opportunities there that it could have swung the other way, and we could have been saying after the game, well, you kind of live by Rob and you die by Rob sometimes, and that could have been a die. But Rob was tremendous, trying to figure out how to let him go and let him rock out a little bit even more.
That fast break 3 was the full Rob Dillingham experience right there.
That's just
masterpiece.
That's just so fun. What I continue to take away with this game, and the one thing that I just felt really excited about, was this is a game that Kentucky loses last season. This is a game that Kentucky loses 2 seasons ago. Kentucky has not won an overtime game since Mississippi State 2 seasons back, that Kelly Grady game. The resolve with this group to, even if, it felt like they were trading buckets, but every time St. Joseph's had a massive, massive shot on one end, Kentucky always responded back. If Kentucky was going through a little bit of a stagnant play offensively, can't get a bucket, a couple possessions in a row where you're not getting a bucket, they go on the other end and force a stop so they can go get the bucket on the other end. It just felt like they always had that response. Kentucky loses this game 9 times out of 10 in the past because that was just an otherworldly shooting performance from St. Joseph's. That's the stereotypical guys come into Rupp Arena and go crazy. Like, that was what that was. And we've seen Kentucky lose this game so many times in the past, and we saw them have every single opportunity to lose. And it just felt like they just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. And then finally, the talent, just kind of the cream rose to the top, and you got to see this team have that reward of the first overtime victory in 2 years. That's what you want to see in mid-November. Like, that performance, considering you're down bigs, rebounding differential sucked. There's so many things that have to get fixed. But if they're able to close out games like that against a very good team, a very well-coached team that came in, their coach came afterward and said something like, we come in, we shoot them up, and we sleep in the streets. Like,
yeah, that was a confusing line from him. But
it was just like, whoa, they had the mindset to come in and win in Rupp Arena. They wanted to come in and win. He sat down pissed off that his team did not come in and win at Rupp Arena, but we had the resolve to get that part figured out. It just feels like everything is icing on the cake this early with this team.
Yeah. I think another main talking point, like you just said, the rebounding. It's slightly becoming an issue. I think this is probably the worst game that it's been so far, where it's been actually kind of a glaring thing. Granted, St. Joe's had 2 7-footers, and one of those dudes out there was probably he was towering over Tre Mitchell, and Tre Mitchell's a big dude. And Christ was out there, and he really was. I mean, Christ, he was 7 feet tall at least.
That literally was his name.
Yeah, his name was Christ. Yes.
42-37.
Yeah, out-rebounded by 5. The offensive rebounds, I think they had 14 of them. I imagine, we'll have to go back and watch some of the tape, but I imagine a lot of those came just on the pure fact that they missed 17 threes, so you're going to get some long rebound opportunities.
14-6 in that, and it also turned into 16 second-chance points compared to just 9 for Kentucky.
Yeah.
That was the story.
And UK was able to counter that by having another low-turnover game. They only had 9. I think most of those came in the first half. Cal pointed out that 6 of them came from 2 of his point guards. One was Reed, the other was DJ, I believe. So you get 6 from those guys in total, but they counteracted by doubling their assists and kind of just everything they do wrong, they find ways to kind of counteract it and balance things out. but it really would have been nice to have a 7-footer in there. Tre Mitchell was doing some stuff because he's just a very disciplined, smart player, so he knows how to get blocks. But there were times where he was just getting bullied down there because he just wasn't as big. And, you know, there was a couple times where St. Joe's had just easy bunnies at the rim, easy layups, because there was no one there to kind of hold them back. So 7-footers, still no update on them. Kentucky desperately needs them, and that's just kind of going back to what you're saying. This win is kind of an icing on the cake thing because of all the stuff we've mentioned. St. Joe's got red hot, and Kentucky still found a way to kind of chug this game. And the main thing is St. Joe's never took the lead on the last 10 minutes. I don't think they did, at least.
I think one time in the last 40 seconds,
that's
they
right.
took the lead. Well, basically to win the game.
Every time UK was up 6-5, you know, St. Joe's would cut it down to 2-3. Kentucky found ways to push it back out to 4, 5, 6, and just kind of keep themselves in a decent enough position to win the game. And that was what another thing that really kind of stood out to me there. So
yeah, Cal mentioned the need to get the bigs back. Said, I just need one. Would love to.
Just one.
And to our credit, you know, I think we're officially in that territory of. Yeah. You know, the rumors of Marshall kind of being the beginning date. I have heard on my end that early December, early December is probably what we should be thinking for Aaron Bradshaw. But we're officially in territory where the ramp-up period is beginning with Bradshaw. So you can start to piece together in your mind, okay, where is AB going to be in this situation? How, you know, you're not going to need Jordan Burks to play high-level minutes because you're going to have AB here very shortly. So we've kind of, like I said, all of this has been icing on the cake. You've kind of almost been playing with house money, as Cal continues to say, as you just kind of buy time until you get at least one of them back, and it does feel like we are on the cusp of getting at least one back.
And Cal even mentioned the idea of potentially playing Tre at the 5 with Aaron at the 4 is pretty much what he teased, and you know what? Honestly, I'm at the point where I'm for it, especially if Aaron can shoot. Let's do it. Let's run some 5 out with a 7-footer.
A lot of fun, a lot of excitement, a much-needed victory, like against. You don't want Kentucky to lose this game, but you could have seen an avenue where Kentucky loses this game and you still go, but I still like my team. But they still found a way to win this game ahead of more difficult non-conference games. You got the Miami game coming up. You have the trip to Atlanta to take on UNC in December. We're still getting to the meat and potatoes, pun intended, with Thanksgiving coming up. We got some why we're blessed and why we're thankful quotes after the game. It was awesome. Tre Mitchell talking about how just grateful that he is to be here and have the opportunity to hit those shots and get that putback dunk and all that. So just a really fun group, plenty to be excited about as we are officially in Feast Week.
Well, go ahead and tell me, Jack, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
I'm thankful for the opportunity to be sitting right here in this chair with this backdrop, and to sit by my guy, Zach, while we get to break down Kentucky basketball.
Jack just had a child a month ago and did not mention that.
Yeah, 1 month celebration of my child.
That's what I thought he was going to say.
Happy 1 month birthday to
I'm happy for you, Katie.
My beautiful.
I'm thankful for Jack's baby.
This is getting off the rails, but I do appreciate my son. I appreciate my wife for being there right now with my child as we're sitting here talking. You know, I was more so thinking like right here in the individual moment.
I'm grateful for sitting right here with this backdrop next to my good friend Jack.